Welcome to today's Explainer. We are unpacking a truly fascinating and honestly pretty grim dark Gothic fable drawn directly from our source material. We're going to explore a chilling narrative steeped in Nietzschean philosophy, focusing on a figure known as the Architect of Glass. Picture a man who is so absolutely terrified by the abyss of the unknown, by the sheer, unpredictable chaos of life, that he decided to build a high, perfectly sealed glass tower just to hide from it all. It is a brilliant, cautionary tale about what exactly happens when we choose the illusion of ultimate safety over the messy, vibrant reality of actually living.
Okay, let's dive into this. Our fable kicks off in a city defined by its quote-unquote perfect climate. The architect engineered a reality for himself where every single comfort was totally guaranteed. In his space, surprise wasn't just avoided, it was actively treated as a corrupting air. But the real tragedy of the architect? He had mistaken his cage for a throne. He completely believed he was ascending to this state of absolute control, but in reality, he was just locking himself away.
Section 1. The Throne of Glass, and arranging life like pinned specimens. Let's look at how the architect perfected the art of not living. He essentially became the quintessential last man. Instead of experiencing life, he sought to escape the terrifying burden of radical freedom. To understand the mechanics of how he did this, we need to talk about a fascinating concept, the existentialist reversal. The architect wanted to achieve essence without existence. He wanted to be a god of definition, reigning over a completely closed system, freezing his fluid, ever-changing life into static intellectual salvage. It's kind of like trying to perfectly curate your life on social media so you never have to deal with the awkward reality of actually interacting with people. He replaced actual freedom with the sterile leet of mortality, ensuring absolutely no future choice or chaotic event would ever disturb his stagnant sanctuary. Now, what's really interesting about this is that you simply cannot bottle up the universe. It doesn't work. Step 1 involves him trying to hoard the infinite within the finite constraints of his glass tower. Naturally, this inevitably leads to Step 2, spiritual entropy. Because he's completely cut himself off from the raw nourishment of actual existence, his carefully curated collection just rots from the inside out. Finally, in Step 3, the vibrant stars of his youth, his passions, his raw potential, they crumble into gray powder and dust. It proves that his protective glass cases were actually suffocating his life. Have you ever tried to hold on to a moment so tightly that you end up completely ruining it? That is exactly what's happening here.
Let's move to Section 2 and see how this builds. The Wandering Overman and embracing the danger of the abyss. We can't just stay up in the tower. We have to look down at the chaotic streets below.
There is a really stark contrast between our two figures. On one side, we have the last man, our architect. He retreats into the security of artifice, values static insulation, and treats life as a collection of finished objects to be hoarded and possessed. But on the exact opposite side, we have the Ubermensch, the Overman, who actually embraces the sheer danger of the abyss. The Overman views humanity not as some final destination to be perfectly preserved in glass, but as an evolutionary bridge. For the Overman, existence is a verb. It requires the profound, unpermissioned freedom of perpetual becoming.
Section 3. The Gaze of Ressentiment and Masking Hunger with the Evil Eye. What exactly happens to a mind that completely isolates itself from the world?
Well, when you trade the agonizing, beautiful act of becoming for safe isolation, your soul begins to warp. The architect becomes infected with a condition called ressentiment, the herd's shackle. In modern terms, it's basically the ultimate form of toxic envy. Because the architect lacks true self-mastery and has completely failed to forge his own meaning, he has to direct his energy outward. He literally looks down from his tower and casts an evil eye upon the raw, unpolished, chaotic growth of the living world below him.
The mechanics of this evil eye act purely as a tool of external contempt. The architect looks at the passions and the very real struggles of others and dismissively labels them a childish sickness. But make no mistake, this isn't genuine superiority. It is fueled entirely by a biting envy. He desperately wants to reduce their vibrant chaos to the exact same dull hum of his own self-made tomb. Have you ever noticed how the most cynical people are often the most desperately unhappy? In a truly twisted way, casting this bitter external judgment is his absolute last and only form of participation in the world.
So the crucial point is captured perfectly in this one line. His sneering was the precise measure of his hunger. It's a dark, devastating irony. The more he judges,
The more he disdains the messy growth of the people below, the more he reveals just how deeply he is starving for the very life he voluntarily renounced. His cynicism is nothing but a defensive mask to soothe the agonizing pain of his own spiritual death.
And this brilliantly illustrates the vast psychological gap between our two characters. The architect is totally consumed by the evil eye, external contempt, spiritual diminishment, and defensive judgment. He has to tear others down just to validate his static cage. The Overman, however, embodies the will to power. Now, this isn't about controlling other people. It is entirely about self-mastery. The Overman welcomes chaos as a necessary catalyst for self-transcendence and profound life affirmation.
Section 4. The Void's Final Test and the Silence of Cosmic Nihilism. The architect must finally face the ultimate consequence of his choices. The grim warning at the heart of our explainer today is simply this. Meaning cannot be possessed. It cannot be frozen and put on a display shelf. Meaning must be continuously and painfully forged against the dark. The architect stood as the guardian of his own stagnation, a shadow trapped on the wrong side of the very glass he built. He sought a closed system, a perfect definition of himself. But he found that a fundamentally indifferent universe offers absolutely nothing back. By choosing the stillness of a finished thing, the architect guaranteed his own nihilistic ruin.
Let's trace how their two paths climax. At dawn, the Overman actively shatters the glass of static meaning. By dusk, the Overman performs what's called the grave dance, a violent, joyful return to the spirit of becoming that enthusiastically affirms even the most painful aspects of existence. But at midnight, we return to the architect. He looks into the mirror and it reflects only his nihilistic ruin. He's left with a living death as the void finally quietly reclaims him.
This brings us to Nietzsche's ultimate philosophical hurdle, a concept called eternal recurrence. Ask yourself right now, if you had to live your exact life, every single pain and every single joy, over and over again for all eternity, would you view it as a curse or a blessing? It is the heaviest of cosmic burdens. The Übermensch, who lives fully and acts as a bridge to the future, passes this test joyfully, but the last man, trapped in his sterile isolation, fails it utterly.
I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Look at the architect, sitting in his perfect, unchanging, suffocating tower, trapped in a self-made tomb, having traded the vibrant chaos of becoming for absolute comfort. Would he fear or embrace the idea of living that exact same stagnant life for eternity? It forces all of us to ask ourselves, are we risking the messy, agonizing act of becoming, or are we slowly building our own towers of glass? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating fable with me today.